Hey everyone, so I got back about an hour ago from the elections and I see the PC party has won. I think in some ways we expected that because things are really bad in Canada, and I wanted to do my talk before I go to sleep. I've warmed up some food. It was a long day for me because I left home around 7 and it was heavy snow. So thankfully for part of the way I could get a bus down Yonge Street, but then I had to walk about 5 blocks in the snow. I got there fine, which is good. And I just enjoyed being in the church. The good thing for me is because I was working in a church, I could go and spend time in the chapel before we started. And then when I took my break, I spent a little bit of time, as I didn't take too long of a break. I just didn't want to eat with people coming and going, so I sat off to the side. But it's a beautiful church, and I'm glad I got to see it. The people there were nice. The church itself is small, but the amenities around it are big, and the hall was nice. Unfortunately, one of my colleagues got sick, so he had to go home early. And I thought I would just finish off today with my John Maxwell. I think it's easy to say we know what we want, and most of us do know what we want. We have career aims, we have goals of being self-reliant, we have our desires, and we take action to put those things into place to make our lives work. Unfortunately, life doesn't turn out sometimes the way we would like, and especially now in Canada, we have a big problem with growing food banks, lack of doctors. People are waiting months before they can get an appointment with a doctor. And lots of people were not happy with the way things were going. So let's see what happens. I hope God will bless this new government that's coming in for Ontario, and I hope it will be good for us. But I think for me, I'm just grateful that I got some work, whether it's 1 day or 2 days, because we did the setup yesterday, and then today we worked, and it was a 12, just like maybe a 13-hour shift, because we had to be there an hour before, and then we had to do the close up and tear down. And for me, it's good because I'm posting what I'm doing, my photos and everything, so that other immigrants, particularly women, can learn from me. Because for us as women, going there on our own, coming home late at night with everything that's going on, we do take precautions. And so I'm glad I had somebody willing to drop me off on her way home just at the intersection here, because she was going my way. And I did give her some money towards the petrol, because things are hard for everyone. I don't want others to feel that I'm just taking advantage of them. And it makes me feel better as well. And also, I think for us as immigrants, we have to aim high, because when I tell people, I never used to talk to people and tell them what I was doing, my work and all that. But there's a few ladies at the church, older ladies, and I see them when I do my groceries and things. So they do ask me, have you got work yet? And I told them, not yet, I'm still looking. But I told one of the ladies I do have work for the elections, and she was quite surprised. She said, how did you get that? I said, well, they do advertise online. So it's not my first time working for the elections. And she's like, that's good, because that shows that you are responsible and that you're trustworthy and the government trusts you and you can make good decisions. I said to her, yes, it does. So I think, for somebody like me who's an introvert, who doesn't like to go around telling people what I'm doing, things like this John Maxwell, talking to people about what I'm doing, my accomplishments, it's something that I've never been comfortable with, because some people think that, oh, you're showing off, you think you're better than others. But at this time, it's so critical for me to get an income, I'm pushing myself to do it. Because if people don't know what I'm doing and they don't know who I am, then they can't tell other people. And it's become crucial for me. All of us who were there working for the elections were in between jobs. And we are people who have had big responsibilities. There was a journalist, there was another lady, she had a fall, and so she's in between planning her next career move. She worked in hospitals. There was me. And so, nobody knows what the future holds, but we have to keep helping each other and supporting each other. And when you go out, you get to meet different people. You get to meet new people, which is much nicer than doing it online. Because when you do things online, you don't get that personal connection with people. You're just meeting online, and then it's like, okay, the meeting is over. But when you get out to an event, when you see people, when you interact with them, then you can also tell their personality and they can tell yours. One of the things that the lady who replaced my colleague who got sick, George, she said to me, you talk very softly, and she said, you're very well paced in what you say. So I said, oh, thank you. I said, I've changed. I used to talk very fast. And she's like, oh, I talk fast too. I said to her, yeah, it's because I worked in a call center. And she's like, really? I said, yes, because what they do in the call center, they make you sit and listen to your voice and how you sound. And then they tell you how to change your voice. And she's like, oh, but then that changes you. I said, yes, it does change you. And I said, unfortunately, I can't go back to being who I was, because I don't like who I am now. But I had to change because I had to be successful in my job. And she's like, oh. I said to her, yeah. So even my mom also doesn't like it. She's like, they changed her. But unfortunately, that's part of the job. It's part of who I am. I've learned how to change my voice. I've learned how to be very calm in the face of rude people, obnoxious people, people who have no self-control because they didn't get something that they paid for. And so it is hard. It is hard. It's hard on my family. It's hard on people who know how I used to be. But unfortunately, that Belinda that came here from Zimbabwe is not there anymore. So it's part of customer service, and it's unfortunate because I couldn't get a job in administration in my field as an executive assistant. So I had to do whatever was available. And customer service is not like other jobs. You're not taking out the garbage. You're not doing reception work. You're not walking around talking to people. You're not seeing people face to face. It's all online, back-to-back calls, high pressure, and, it changes you. So it's part of life. And the one thing I can say is that I held on to my faith, because a lot of people, including my godmother, my Aunt Teresa, she says to me, I don't know how you cope. You don't have any money. You can't get any work. Canada doesn't seem to be improving. I said to her, well, I have you guys. That's part of how I cope, because you're helping me. She's like, yeah, we're helping you. But I mean, really and truly, these people treat you so awfully. And it's so horrible. And, I just don't know how you cope. I said to her, well, I just put my faith in God, because there's nothing I can do. They treat me the same way they treated my mom in Zimbabwe. They treat me the same way that we got treated during apartheid. And, when you meet people, like I met people in my training for the elections, they say, you know what, like once you go like on disability, they don't try to accommodate you. They just let you go because they can't be bothered. She said, I was a lawyer and I've met so many legal assistants. I've met so many people that they say that they accommodate people. They say that they value you. But when push comes to shove, they don't do anything to help you. So it's sad. But I think, for me, I'm lucky. I took steps to educate myself. I'm a knowledge worker. And I also took steps to learn about medicine, to learn about essential oils. And I did it because I started learning from the sisters in Pinner. And I always had that interest, I always had that passion that I want to learn how to mix the oils. And God blessed me through that, because through that I was able to get better, and I was able to learn which oils to use for anything. I mean, for healing against inflammation, for managing underlying anger, for uplifting my spirit, to help me to sleep at night. And I don't use the oils every day because they are like a medicine. I use them as and when I need them, and I enjoy them. So I thank God for my benefits, and I thank God for my colleagues, especially the lady who dropped me off home today. And, also the music that has enriched my life. I follow Elvis Presley's posts every day. Every day I check for Graceland, I check for the post on his page, and for his faith and the strength that it gave me, because really and truly I'm on my own. And without that music and without that faith, I think I would have given up. So at the end of the day, people can make you feel alone, but if you have God with you, they can't make you feel alone. Like, they can try, but they can't really make you feel alone, because you have that comfort and you have that sweet unction of knowing that God is with you and the Holy Spirit is with you. It's stressful for me, just like millions of others, because Pope Francis was critical. But we're all praying for him, and he's no longer critical. And I think when you're working, when you have that purpose in life, it helps you. Because if you're just sitting at home doing nothing, you're involved in leisure, you're not really doing anything with your life, it becomes very frustrating and it becomes very upsetting. Because we Zimbabweans, we are raised to work hard, we're raised to be independent, we're not raised to sponge off people, and we're not raised to just sit back and do nothing. And that's why for me, I'm doing my singing, I'm putting it online, my music, my piano playing. Now I'm doing my John Maxwell. I'm not just doing it to gain 1 million followers. I'm doing it because I want to get an income from it. And I want to have that finance coming in, that money coming in, because my whole life I've had financial instability and people always let me go. They hire me, they tell me you did a good job, and then they let me go. So, I think the police should get involved in who's being hired in the banks, and there should be some kind of system put in place where those of us who are good people and who are doing the right things, we actually get good paying jobs. Because what's happening now in our banks in Canada, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Do you think if Bharat Masrani was working in America, that they would have just said, okay, well, we're just going to fine you and let you go? I don't think that would have been the case. And Canada is a mosaic nation. It's not a melting pot like America. It's much harder here to be in relationships where you're not of the same race or you're not of the same culture, you're not of the same religion. It's much harder in Canada than it is in America, because here the Indians stick together, the whites stick together, the blacks stick together. Yes, we do interact and we work together. But even with me, a lot of the black people are more comfortable with me because I came from Zimbabwe. And we lived in communities where everybody interacted. We all got together at each other's houses, and it didn't matter the color of your skin. So anyway, now, unfortunately, I'm not going to be changing back. So my mom has to get used to it and stop crying because they changed me. And, I try to interact with her only when things are good, because it's very hard for them. It's hard for my sister, it's hard for my brother, it's hard for my mom, it's hard for my cousins who I grew up with in Zimbabwe, because they just start crying. And they don't know what to say to me, because life wasn't supposed to turn out this way for me. For the person that did everything for everyone and that was there for everybody in the family. It wasn't supposed to turn out this way. So they just start crying, and it's hard. So I try to be strong for them. And I know they miss me the same way I miss them, my cousins in Vancouver and England, and we miss getting together. But unfortunately, until the financial piece falls into place, I can't go to anything. And in the 20 years I've been here in Canada, I can count on my hands the number of times I've been to family gatherings. I've missed out on all the family weddings. I've missed out on all the big occasions that all the families gotten together with. So it's sad for me. But at the end of the day, I've got my life, and life is fragile. Life is fragile, and that's what I remember. 9/11 changed everything. People were just going to work, and some of them never came home. I know friends of mine who going home from university. I had friends die in South Africa going home in the Kombi. They were just going home from university, and the next thing I got a call that, this one's passed away. There was an accident. So life is fragile, and that's all I can say. Whether people like the way I've changed or they don't like the way I've changed. And you can't get me back to the way that I used to be, and it's unfortunate and it's sad. But, unless you take me and you put me back in Zimbabwe, I don't think you're going to get that Belinda back that all of you adored and loved, and I'm not going to get back to me. I might grow my hair long again. So maybe we can start with that. But you just can't change. You just can't go back to the way you used to be, and it's sad. And we can hold on to our faith, and we can hold on to our love for each other and our hope. And one of the ladies I met, she told me about how her daughter went on holiday. And while they were on holiday, they had a massive accident, and she landed up being in a wheelchair, and she lost her eyesight in one eye. So that's why I'm saying maybe I've changed. I'm a little heavier set than I used to be, but I'm working on losing that weight, and at least I'm still alive. Look at it that way. Who knows what would have happened if I hadn't lost that job? I could have landed up going deaf. I could have landed up being in a worse state of anxiety. We don't know. We don't know what God's plan is. But I do know that life is fragile. It's like that song of Sting's, fragile. Life is fragile. So we have to appreciate our own lives before we can appreciate others. So I just wanted to share that with you. And, even for me, at least my mom is still alive. My dad's been gone a long time, and everyone misses him. Everybody talks about him to me when I speak to them. including my cousins in Vancouver. And I'm glad they can talk to me about him without getting upset. And I'm glad they loved him. And I'm glad that they remind me of him and what a lovely man he was. And I'm glad that I remind them of him, because I was very close to my dad. So you can thank God for the elections and for the work it gave me. And I'm continuing to pray for Pope Francis to get well. I hope he will make a full recovery. And yeah, tomorrow's a new day. I didn't do any more reading on my John Maxwell. But the one thing that did stick with me, I did the Bible scripture readings today, and I did some other readings from some of my books. It's this: don't aim so high. People will think you are crazy. Let them. I don't care. My friends, no, nobody thought I would be able to do a master's, but the Jesuits are crazy. They took me into a master's program and the Sisters of St. Joseph. So I hang around with crazy people. They are big dreams for me. And somehow God makes those dreams come true. So you can say thank you to them and pray for them. They're quite phenomenal people, actually.